Cohen joins us, managing editor for the website 538.com. Micah, welcome, Big 550 KTRS.
Thank you for having me.
But first of all, love your website.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, and it's a website that is a great resource because you guys look at things just a little bit differently. You guys have released your Senate forecast. Tell us how you came by this Senate forecast.
So the basic idea is in any election, you have a ton of information coming at you, right? You have polls, you have fundraising, you have the candidates. How good are the candidates, right? We think people in general pretty bad at getting all that information, sifting through it, and weighing it in a smart way. So what we do is we use basically a mathematical formula to look at what would have been the best way to weigh all that information historically, and then we apply it to this year.
All right. So what did your Senate forecast tell you about the great state of Missouri and the barn burner between Josh Hawley and Claire McCaskill?
Yeah, that is really one of the most interesting races in the country and one of the most important. Our model shows Claire McCaskill as a 5-7 favorite to win re-election. So that's about a 71% chance of winning. Josh Hawley is a 2-7 underdog. Now, 2-7 is an underdog, but not a huge underdog. Hawley's chances, about 29%, were almost exactly where our model had President Trump's chances in 2016.
But President Trump here in you're saying nationally or here in Missouri, President Trump?
No,
President
nationally.
Okay.
Nationally.
Yeah, because President Trump won the state by 20 points 2 years ago, which would be a remarkable shift if she were to win this over Josh Hawley just 2 years later.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, Senate races have become more nationalized over the past couple decades in the sense that sort of national politics, people's default partisanship, play a more important role, but we still see voters differentiating between, the White House and sort of who represents their state. Moreover, in Indiana, Claire McCaskill won election in 2012 in a pretty good Democratic environment. 2018 is shaping up to be a very, very good Democratic environment. So generally what you see is that it's very hard for an incumbent senator to lose when their party is having a wave year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but last time she ran, it was the Todd Akin effect, so that was sort of an outlier. That was a different. There was some extenuating circumstances to that. Micah, what do you see? Dive into these polls for us. Where is she doing well? Where is Josh Hawley doing bad?
I mean, in general, this isn't a very exciting answer, but it's sort of what you would expect. People are very partisan these days. McCaskill does well with Democrats. Hawley does well with Republicans. This is likely to come down to enthusiasm. Right now, President Trump is on net, very unpopular. Democrats are very likely to be more enthused to turn out than Republicans. And so I think a lot of these races will come down to that.
All right. While I still have you, what are your polls? What are your numbers saying? What's your crystal ball saying about the Senate Texas race with Ted Cruz?
This is one I was actually pretty surprised by. I thought, every year we hear, Texas might turn blue, and sort of every year it stays red. But we actually have the Democrat down there as having a 1 in 3 chance of winning, which is pretty good. Cruz has been outraised by the Democrat Beto O'Rourke. Texas is a big, diverse state, which our study has shown sort of is harder to hold on to if you're an incumbent. And Cruz hasn't been an incumbent there that long. So, look, Cruz is the favorite there. He has a 2 in 3 chance. But it really wouldn't be that shocking for the Democrat to win there.
Yeah. A lot of people talk to the polls. I can hear people screaming at the radio. The polls were so wrong back in 2016. But my premise was the polls nationally were right on. Maybe a couple of state polls were off, but it was all within the margin of error.
No, so that's exactly right. So 2 points. One is national polls, as you said, were sort of right on. Two is there were some state polls that are wrong, but I think what people have to get comfortable with is polling is inexact. Everything we do here, the reason we build a model and issue a forecast is because we want to measure the uncertainty in the polls. If the polls were perfect, I'd be out of a job, right? We wouldn't need to do any of this. But the polls are not perfect. Trump, I think, we published a headline right before the 2016 election that was like, Trump is just a normal polling era behind Clinton. And that's exactly what happened. So people should get used to, the polls are useful. They tell you a lot of good information, but they are not exact. There's a margin of error, even when you're combining a bunch of polls together.
What do your polls say about the Democrats taking over the House?
We have Democrats as pretty heavy favorites to take the House. I mean, as I said earlier, it's just such a good environment for them nationally. President Trump is unpopular and has gotten actually more unpopular recently. So we have Democrats as a 5 and 6 favorite to win the House. That's about an 83% chance of winning. On average, they gain in our simulations 39 seats, which is more than enough to win the majority. Yeah.
Last question about Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley. You're talking about enthusiasm, and so I do find it interesting that Republicans were so enthusiastic 2 years ago to come out and vote. That enthusiasm has been lost. The Democrats are much more enthusiastic. I always found that weird, that sometimes people feel excited to go vote and other times they don't feel excited to go vote.
Yeah, I have always found this kind of weird, too, is it seems in American politics nowadays it's much easier to rally voters against something than for something. I mean, just think about the Affordable Care Act, right? Republicans hated that bill. It was a big reason Democrats lost seats in 2010 and 2014. And then what happened when Republicans finally started trying to repeal it? Well, the polls swung in favor of the Affordable Care Act. So this is sort of nothing new in American politics. We tend to swing back and forth, back and forth.
Michael Cohn with the FiveThirtyEight.com website, managing editor. Micah, thanks for checking in. Have a good day.
Thanks for having me.